presentation. So Michelle Taylor here in front is the CIO of Astute, the financial exchange. So they really the organization that does all the exchange of data between the various insurance companies in South Africa. And when we started with the whole insurance working group, it was actually, I think, Oscar, who's the chair of the insurance working group, who came up with the idea, why don't we speak to Astute and see if they won't be interested to join us. So, and since then, Michelle and Johan Libbe, the architect from Astute, were really supportive of this, and we're really grateful for just giving that drive, so, and also facilitating a lot of the meetings and that. So, and therefore we asked Michelle to present today because it's really a milestone for us to see how we're starting to move into the insurance industry with also the support from Hans. So, but thank you very much. Over to you, Michelle.
Thank you, Paul. Are we all good in the back there for sound? Let's get this presentation going. Oh gosh, there's way too much happening here for me. There we go. It's not... There we go. Okay. Wow. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Paul. I'm definitely not as slick as what Kokura is, so I won't be doing any dance moves for you guys. But I think first and foremost, thank you for the opportunity to the BIAN board, Hans, for lobbying for insurance. It's been a journey, and we know that it's challenging. Astute has been on this journey for, gosh, almost 26 years with the insurance industry. So perhaps just for a few of you guys that don't know who we are, we were established in the year 2000 when everybody thought the year was coming to an end. But we luckily had the support of Sanlam, Liberty and Old Mutual behind us. And really the birth of our client consolidated portfolio service was born to really support the insurance industry and the intermediated market. And you might think, okay, well, where's Astute fit into all of this today, and why BIAN for insurance? Well, I hope I'm going to be able to really convince some of the insurance members here today to join Astute, number one, and to get onto the BIAN roadmap. You know, this is where we are right now. So without a further delay, let me get to my presentation. And I don't know, guys, why my notes are not showing. So we'll give it a go anyway. So I'll be very quick, or I promise to, I try. If I do get carried away, please just wave at me. But I will also, I do apologize, repeat a few of what we've already been seeing this morning, but I promise I won't cause any death by presentation this morning. Right, so let's think about, we alluded to where we've been and how we've evolutionized ourselves from the onset of time. So from pretty much our cave era to where we are today, a lot has happened. We have a lot of data, so we have quantum computing, and the next, we spoke about what's next in the next 2 to 5 years, right? Which is pretty scary, actually. But it's important to realize that we don't... Are you coming to get my notes back for me?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm not saying anything.
I wanna go out. Here we go.
That doesn't show your notes on here. You don't have a second screen.
I apologize, guys. I am getting to that age where the memory doesn't quite serve me as well as some of you young ones in the audience.
It's changing everything because you're showing screen.
Yeah, I don't want to show everything.
Sorry.
Security, breach, let's run. It's fine, just go there. I don't know why it's not. It's just duplicating it, I think. Apologies, guys. You had it. It's okay. We'll depend on the memory today. Anyway, as I was saying, so, I think there's a lot of machine power, there's a lot of computing power, there's a lot of human brain power around, and there's a lot of data around, right? But really, a lot of data can also cause a lot of chaos, specifically in the way that we connect today. So the scalability, the reusability, the security, and obviously the interoperability of data is important in today's world. And I wanted to just bring that here because there's a lot happening and there's a lot of chaos. But how do we make sure that the data that we have today, which really drives innovation going forward, doesn't end up in chaos? There's that old saying about garbage in, garbage out. So how do we move away from that? And so today I just want to talk about why interoperability. We've heard this buzzword, just like AI, for quite some time now. And really, I think, the way that the insurance industry today connects is quite challenging. And at Astute for the last 25 years, we've had first-hand experience of how difficult it is to bring all of these industry players around the table and for these organizations to share. And we're in the business of sharing data altogether, right? So what do we need to do to really make sure that we have the best data shared, utilizing interoperability now across the entire industry? And so that's where BIAN comes in. So we mentioned earlier, just get on the journey, right? So let's get on the journey, and then you don't need me to present here. Anyway, so brokers, insurers, reinsurers, regulators today really heavily rely on data sharing. And there's been a lot of hype around security, how do we protect PII, etc. And really, if you look at the BIAN model, there's a lot built into the foundation layer of that. And what we really need to get away from is we need to stop utilizing point-to-point bilateral integrations. It is causing security concerns, it's driving up cost, and really, is it scalable? Because that's what we're after, is scalability at the end of the day, and to remove the complexities of integrations. And of course, absolutely, we have to support regulatory requirements, right? Transparency is key. In the insurance industry, fair practice is the number one priority. And then, of course, how do we treat the data that is in your possession? And I think sometimes we use that word data ownership a little bit too lightly, and I think that's where we need to place focus on. And if you look at the BIAN model, a lot is the foundation of how do we treat data, where do we take it, and how do we use it responsibly with purpose. Of course, BIAN is at the foundation layer of innovation, open insurance, open finance, AI-enabled services, as we saw earlier, they all depend on data, the scalability, the security, and the usability thereof. Ooh, we don't want to end the call. Okay. Right. We touched a little bit on the standards landscape. And really, if we look at BIAN, and I'm not going to regurgitate what has already been said, but there are more than 300 service landscapes already created from a BIAN infrastructure architectural model already. And that supports not only global, but I do believe the local South African market as well. Together with that, we have the local insurance standards as well, right? And this is where Astute plays a pivotal role in that. So in the last, 18 months, the Astute journey is really about redeveloping, revisiting our own architectural layers in our ecosystem. We have roughly about 140 plus unique integrations into our platform. And we were pretty much on the same journey as a lot of our insurers are right now. And please, no disrespect to anybody. But we know that the banking industry moves a lot quicker than the insurance industry. And with us being that data exchange, not only for the banking industry, but for the insurance industry, we're really at a pivotal point where we're saying to the insurance industry, well, hey, you're already connected onto our ecosystem. We are integrated. You need to follow what Astute is doing, and Astute is following BIAN. So together with that, we are also creating our own BIAN FID standard. It's called the Financial Industry Data Standard. And please don't ask me, are they competing? They're absolutely not. They are definitely complementary. And I'm going to go through some of the detail from that perspective as well. And then, of course, we've got other global standards that we have to consider. It's ISO 20022, ISO 27001, ISO 27701. I can rattle off here the whole day on all of the ISO standards that we all achieve to certify against. And then there's the South African IFRS, and there's the COFI. So from an insurance landscape, where do you start and where do you stop? And so what we really just want to say is BIAN is really fitting in nicely into the models. And we're not saying delete all of the, it's not making me move though. We're not saying delete all of the standards that you got now and just adopt BIAN. It's how do we utilize BIAN, adopt it within the standards landscape that we have in South Africa and move forward. I mean, there is, you guys have moved my presentation slides. Let's do this. We're not there yet. There we go. All right. So moving back to the standards, specifically in the insurance landscape, we've got Accord heavily entrenched, right? And it's complex and it's outdated. And what we are saying is there's no journey to really just replace it. What is happening, guys? You are interfering with my presentation. Okay. I'll just do it like this then. Some tech challenges today. It's not moving forward. Oh, okay. Well, there we go. And then it wants to do security updates. I'm joking. It's not working. Anyway, let me continue while we try and get this sorted out. But yeah, it's not working here either. So what I'm saying is, you know, Accord had a place in the market, but we know that we can't just build Rome in one day. It's not working, Paul. Okay, we're back. Okay, it's confusing there and here because it's two different screens. Anyway, so what we're saying is Rome wasn't built in a day, right? Accord, well, it took a long time to get into the market. And I'm not advocating to remove Accord altogether. What I am advocating for is let's not reinvent the wheel. And what BIAN is doing and what Astute is doing from a FID standards perspective really complement each other, and let's see how can we layer BIAN into that architectural landscape that we've got, because we know we can't do things overnight. We have to take a slow approach to getting there, and really let's not reinvent the wheel, but let's adopt the standards at hand. So why is BIAN an essential for the insurance industry, right? Well, we've already seen that there's a number of service landscapes that have already been provided, and really it provides business capabilities with defined boundaries. And I think specifically the South African market, we're heavily regulated and we need those boundaries. So why not take the opportunity now to implement them? Together with the modularity, it helps break down complex value chains. Gosh, guys, there's so many products out there in the market. I'm not even going to go to banking, but if you know the insurance industry well, there's so many products, there's so much competition around, and let's just take hands and move forward, because that's the way we're going to really get the most out of it. And of course, the benefit of BIAN in the insurance is each domain can evolve without breaking the entire value chain. And then, of course, the business object model. We saw quite a bit about that this morning. It really is a shared dictionary for business concepts. In the insurance industry, and I'm sure in the banking industry as well, there's a lot of terms, party, claim, policy, but does everybody speak the same language when they hear policy, party, and claim? I can guarantee you that's not the case. It's different languages. And really what the business object model will give to the insurance industry, should you adopt the BIAN framework, is that local concept. One, we're adopting an international global standard, but we can apply it locally to our own insurance businesses as well, so that we can all speak the same language. I mean, I know a number of you people have flown in from different places in the world, and I think we're all fortunate that we can all speak English. But if you can't speak English and you go into a foreign country and you can't speak their language, there's no connectivity and there's no interoperability. So again, let's take hands and let's move forward to learn one language, and that's the BIAN language. Of course, this will eliminate ambiguity, improve data quality, and support regulatory requirements. I mean, that goes just without saying, right? And then, of course, BIAN supports semantic APIs on the open API standards. We saw that earlier. Again, I'm not going to regurgitate a lot of it, but I really think that the semantic APIs has created a universal interoperable user face. We have to embrace that, because if you don't, your organization will get left behind. There's a lot of tools and software out there, and I'm not going to ramble because I don't want to put anybody in a bad light, but there's complexities around that, and we know that we all want to deliver at speed. How do we do that? Let's adopt these semantic APIs, and then of course BIAN also, beyond the semantic APIs, really support event-driven and wireframes. So this has all already been put together for us. It gives us near real-time processing. We know that we want to have near real-time processing, because when you get a new client on board or on the phone or via email or via WhatsApp and they ask for a policy, you want to give them that policy number immediately, right? You want to be able to provide them that information immediately. And then back at the ranch, within the organization, there's a number of events that you need to drive as well. There's analytics, there's telemetry. I mean, how do we bring all of these things together? So luckily for you guys, for the banking industry as well as for insurance, BIAN already provides that. There's a number of already provided APIs that's been made available. Alali, I see you nodding because we've gone through this quite a lot, right? So really together, these building blocks as BIAN for insurance gives the insurance sector a common architecture and a consistent integration pattern, because that's what we're looking for. We can't share data if we're not integrated, and that's where interoperability plays a huge part. So we mentioned a little bit about the working group that was established last year, and Astute joined the conference last year for the very first time, and very quietly, tongue-in-cheek, I said to Johan, "Hey Johan, we want to be on the stage next year because we're going to get really involved here." And so I just want to say, be careful what you put out there, because the universe is listening, guys. So I just want to, just reiterate what has already been said. Rizwana, Lale, Craig, Patrick, there's a number of names. Our own EA at Astute, Johan. A lot of work effort has gone into really creating the first 3 service domains for the insurance industry. And a lot of the artifacts have already been put together. And as mentioned before, these service domains have been included in the last release. So well done, guys. It's a great effort, and I want you to give yourself a clap. And we don't stop here, right? This is a huge milestone for the insurance industry. It's not just an extension of the banking arm, but it's really recognizing the importance of insurance in South Africa and globally. And I'm not going to go into the technical details. If you want some of that, well, we've got EAs that you can go and talk to afterwards. Right. So this is the importance of interoperable data structures, right? I've mentioned before that the insurance industry use the same building blocks. Everybody uses policy, claim, party, product, coverage, and this is the shared language across the insurance industry. But there's some integration challenges, and if we adopt some of these building blocks that BIAN already provides to us, it's easy for us to move forward. So the things that we really need to consider is, how do we get to speak the same language? So as I mentioned before, if we say policy, claim, and party, what does that mean for you? So the business object model provides those concepts, and it's easily adoptable because it's already been done, right? Secondly, how do we adopt it to go forward? Well, as I said, change doesn't happen overnight. We need to manage risk. And of course, we need to version our schemas. We need to absolutely make sure that we are backward compatible. Like I said, we don't just get rid of a code overnight and all of the other standards alongside with that. But what we have to do is move forward together and responsibly. Thirdly, we have some jurisdictional profiles that we need to consider, right? We have to allow for local and regulatory differences to remain in each of our jurisdictional areas. And here we use different profiles and regulatory specifics to make sure that we keep aligned. And then, of course, we need to speak the same codes, not just the same structure. We need to use shared code lists and identifiers to move forward. Examples in the insurance, and in the banking, I suppose. I'm not that afraid with the banking, so please excuse me. But there's a lot of product catalogs and national IDs that don't mean the same thing, but we want to adopt them as the same. So really, by standardizing these objects, schemas, variants, and shared identifiers, we reduce the complexity and enable predictable, reusable data exchange across a number of networks, a number of partners, and not only the banking industry, but in the insurance industry as well. Right, so now you're saying, where to from here, right? How do we get to from where we are now to where we need to be? And yes, just like Astute, we grapple with some legacy challenges, but now's that pivotal point for us to move forward. Was alluded to earlier on that if you don't, you're going to get left behind, and then you don't have a place in the business. So luckily for Astute, we are a software development company and we operate in the fintech world, but a lot of our insurers still struggle with that, and the pace is quite challenging at this point in time. So how do we move from entrenched legacy standards and systems to modern interoperable BIAN aligned across the industry? Well, we need to focus on Accord first, right? The industry, and especially the intermediated markets, still rely heavily on standards such as Accord. And what we need to do is we need to partner with these partners that are available to us, like BIAN, to move forward. Again, nothing happens overnight. We have to do this over a steady pace. We know that we need to create clear mapping guidelines, and there are already transformation libraries. Hans already shared earlier that there's a myriad of documentation available on the BIAN website. And really, guys, I want to encourage you, just if you haven't taken the time yet, go and have a look at that. You'll be pleasantly surprised the level of detail that's already available there for you to adopt. And no, yes, I know that we're talking a lot about AI, but the AI can't read it to you and just implant it in your brain. You need to still be a human. You need to go and read and absorb the information that's there. And then, of course, we need to look at our coexistence strategy, and that has to be a phased approach, right? We need to look at how V1 adapters allow legacy systems to interact into the new model. And of course, then we will introduce a V2 standard within our organizations to fully narrative semantic APIs. So how do we modernize without disruption? Really honoring legacy, enabling transition, and moving the industry with clean, operable regulatory obligations and secure data. Right. So then, I think we have a lot of architects in the room and possibly a lot of questions to say, okay, but how do we adopt this model? Well, we have to take an approach of a phased layer. First, we have to start at the experience, right? Our channels, partner portals, and broker tools have to be kept separately and intentionally so, because whatever you're doing in the back end shouldn't disrupt your front end. We need to be touching core systems and provide changes as seamless as possible to our clients. Below that sits the integration layer, where we've got the API gateway, event streaming, and our service mesh. And really this provides our secure interoperable layer where how do we connect and how do we do so securely. And then at the heart of all of this is the BIAN domain services. BIAN alignment is really at the core of all of this architectural layer that we want to implement. And then, the modern microservices approach, mapping that to our service domains is a logical one. It's not a difficult one, but it has to be taken through a phased view. And then lastly, all of that, of course, has to sit on your data layer, right? There are a number of tools, Microsoft, IBM, AWS, gosh, there's so many out there. You need to obviously select what is good for you. But to enable what you want through your API gateway and your event streaming, you need to have good quality data. And so making sure that you have a governed data layer at the bottom of this is empirical. So back to data governance. So I think to a large extent, regulation struggles to keep up with technology. But just because that's the narrative at the moment doesn't mean that an organization shouldn't take it as a responsible approach. Just because there isn't potentially an AI regulated legislation right now. I know there's the EU AI Act, but we need to make sure that when we're dealing with data, we do so responsibly. And there's a saying of, do the right thing even when no one's watching. Well, that's applicable to the data in your environments as well. So data quality needs to be built into your pipelines. Accuracy, completeness, and consistency is dependent on this. All of your downstream processes is dependent on this. You can't do proper reporting. You can't do proper AI for the future if your data is garbage. And so strong data governance is really empirical for this. What it will allow us to also do is to really modernize confidently, ensuring that as we scale and how we automate and how we integrate is deeply entrenched into our data governance controls. I think that, together with information security, data privacy, is key for us in any organization, because without that, I think all of our efforts are pretty much dead in the water. So what's the suggested roadmap? So this is something that we at Astute have also adopted, and it's really a phased approach. We have to manage low risk, and to adopt interoperable standards isn't easy, guys. I'm not here to say to you that it's going to be easy and without challenge, but if you do it slowly, almost as slow as what our AI robot moved, I'm not going to compete, but be responsible in what you do. So first, let's finalize the core canonical objects. We heard about that quite a bit earlier, so I'm not going to delve into that. We need to look at how do we adopt API and event schemas for funeral policies, because funeral policy was the first service domain that we've adopted for South Africa, right? And how do we expand that? So one, let's finalize. Secondly, let's implement these adapters, right? Let's pilot the APIs, the events and the schemas, and let's have selected partners on the journey with us. Back at Astute, we, as I mentioned earlier, and I'm going to get into a little bit detail now, we're taking the same type of roadmap approach for the industry to adopt the financial industry data standard schemas. And it's imperative that you have partners on board with you. And I think we've taken the same approach as the BIAN South African work group right now. And it's tough. I mean, Rizwana, Oscar, it's hard when you're sitting on the other side of a Teams call, right, and you're asking for input, excuse me, and you've got competing players from the different insurance industries sitting there because why should I share what I have with you? Well, why not? It makes life easier, right? And so it's important to have partners on board. It's important to create those working groups because together we can move forward. So once you have that and you've stabilized, like we've done now with the first service domains that's been implemented into the BIAN model, move forward, right? Expand. Experience more. Have a look at what are those pivotal processes in your line of business that you can quickly adopt. Because quick adoption motivates individuals and it motivates investment, etc., etc. And then, of course, scale. We don't want to do this just overnight, as I mentioned. Use some logic, right? We're all born with logic, which our AI, Kukura, I don't think has quite well because feelings are not there quite yet. So take a phased approach. Don't rush. We know what comes with a rushed project. It's bound to fail. And yeah, let's take hands and move this together. Right. So, of course, with any project, I guess, there's risks that we need to consider. And so, how do we move forward? Because how do you manage something that you don't know is about to happen? We're only humans. We can't predict walls being built up. And so when I looked at this and I thought, okay, well, what are the risks not only Astute needs to face in our roadmap with adopting the BIAN architectural layer and putting out the FIT schema, I really came to 4 really distinct risks that we need to consider. And the first is schema fragmentation, right? We need to make sure that we move forward creating different notifications, streams, variations, models. There's so much to think about, but we have to make sure that we avoid disruption. And so, as I mentioned earlier, that very first layer has to stay intact. And so we have to manage schemas, we have to have version control, because we don't want to break the front ends when we lay out this BIAN framework. Third, partner variability. As I've mentioned before, it's important to build sandboxes, to get certified. Some of the individuals that are not yet BIAN certified get certification. Make sure that your test cases are strong, they're unique, and they're signed off. It's important. And then make sure you log in your legacy systems, because at the end of the day, you have to manage business as usual while you're innovating in the back end. So those are the 4 major risks that we really need to consider. And again, take it easy, guys. You know, Rome wasn't built in a day, and be responsible. And really, so in essence, just regarding the risks and mitigation, let's use disciplined governance, predictable change, and supported partners. And it's important that you pick your partners well, because they can make or break your journey. And then, of course, have a firm migration plan in place. Communication to internal and external stakeholders is key, because people don't like change, and that's just inevitable. So back to home a little bit. I've mentioned a little bit about what Astute is busy with at this point in time. So we have really gotten onto the journey of really trying our best, and kudos to the team back in Johannesburg. We're doing really well and we're gaining good momentum in the insurance industry, and we are creating this FID standard. And really what we are trying to do, we spoke about one click earlier on, is how do we provide that single view of the person or the client. And I do believe that both in the banking and the insurance industry, the more data you have on your client, the better you'll be able to support them, sell them the right products, etc. And so what we're doing is we're rolling out and adopting the BIAN architecture from an architectural layer. But from a FITS perspective, in making sure we speak the same language, we're really applying that roadmap that I shared with you earlier from a service-by-service specifics rollout. And that's what I want to encourage you to do. Just take one service and apply it, see how well it works, and move forward. And then, of course, everything has to support a data structure. So, again, South African markets, heavily regulated. Astute supports that. And together with BIAN, I really think that we can make quite a big dent in not only the banking industry, but as well as in the insurance industry. So let's drive the maturity from an architectural layer perspective, and let's increase integration speed. And I think we already have all of the essentials that's been provided by BIAN to make that available. So now you're going to say to me, okay, Michelle, but is Astute competing with BIAN? Absolutely not. We're very much aligned. And so being part of a global financial ecosystem and being entrenched in the local industry market, we really see that adopting FIDs, and by the way, if you're not on the Astute platform just yet, you need to get on it, right? Because there you're going to encounter the BIAN work as well as the local data industry schemas that we're really rolling out for the insurance industry. And by the way, just to mention, it's not just insurance that are currently on our ecosystem. We have a few of the banks on our ecosystem as well as Standard Bank, actually, and to name a few others. So really, I'm not going to verbate word for word. I don't know if you guys can see there, but the slides will give you the details. I'm running out of time. But really, BIAN gives us an architecture. FIDs will bring us the local data model, and together they complement each other. And I really want to encourage you guys to come and have a chat with us afterwards. Again, we're not competing. We're definitely aligning, and we're working together to make sure that we can move faster, more responsibly. So by aligning FIDs and BIAN, we get the best of both worlds, global standardization with a little bit of a local flair. So what's next, guys? Now we need to take action, right? It's easier said than done. We say, let's just get on the bicycle and ride it. Well, life is not that simple. But I really think that what we need to do is to move the industry forward. We need alignment and commitment. And the individuals online and you guys sitting here in the audience, you play that role. So I'm not going to ask by hands who is committed, because I'm sure you all are already, right? Secondly, we need to approve the canonical data work streams and schema registries. It's important for us. It prevents fragmentation, and schemas and standards remain consistent. And then third, nominate domain owners and stewards to take responsibility for governance and quality. And don't just depend on the working groups, guys, because there's only a few select individuals that are in those working groups, and they can't do it all by themselves. So we're dependent on you guys in the audience and the guys online to really help us, support us, put up your hand if you want to be in the next working group, because you're going to be part of an organization that makes a difference, right? And together, this is how we'll turn standards pretty much into adoption and ultimately interoperability, because that's what we're after. So, some takeaways here. Get on the bicycle and start pedaling. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Michelle. And you're really calm with all these technical challenges. But I think the last 30 minutes we managed to get it right. So it seems as if Hans wants to tell you something.
So Michelle, thank you for your, to encourage the audience to participate. So there is something, so you know that I'm a huge advocate for getting insurance in. So we decided that we would, not to hurt feelings from others, that we say we were looking only for including insurance products. So that implies that we are not going to build a model for insurance companies, although we know that maybe 85% of the BIAN model is applicable for insurance companies. So that's one.
Sure.
So I recently received a question if I would investigate how we could expand on insurance from the BIAN board. So should we broaden the space? Should it be, let's say, we should have a model for insurance and we should have a model for banking? All those questions. You say don't do it.
Yeah.
It should be integrated. So we figure it out. And so that's one. And I think the other one is that because you're more or less in a sort of isolated position, that you are mentioning that you need to interact with the legacy. You keep the legacy alive. So there is, when you look at my deck, but in the deck there is a page from a research from McKinsey. And McKinsey said there is always a huge need. It's a banking example. For instance, we need to have a new payments environment, but we need to have it yesterday. Yeah, that's usually
everything is yesterday, guys.
And then they say you have your new payment environment, and then use the BIAN microservices API layer as an abstraction layer or a collaboration layer between all the new. So keep your legacy as it is and interact using the BIAN API. So and then it gives you the opportunity, if you have underneath that layer, usually an enterprise service does, and then you can carve out more or less of the old stuff and add in new stuff without, let's say, stopping the machine. So it's good to look at that paper because it's always in my deck that I do for banks, but it also, of course, applicable for insurance companies. So the legacy issue is extremely solvable. So that there is no much to worry about if you use the right abstraction layer. And I think that's that. So those are my two messages. So we are looking how can we expand on insurance, how can we make it more embedded in what we are doing. And the other thing is there is a sort of solution to keep using your legacy environment. It's not the right name, but okay, your existing environment and adding new functionality. That was my message.
Thank you,
okay,
Hans.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michelle. So let's give her another applause. Thanks.